Good morning. Welcome to the Sunday morning Marxist Forum. My name is Raj Sahai. This forum is a project of the Institute for the Critical Study of Society, ICSS, was formed at the Nebel Proctor Marxist Library in 2004 to preserve Marx's heritage and to support the struggles for social justice and the struggle for socialism. However, it is no longer held at the library because we're doing it on the internet. The opinions expressed in our forum are only those of its authors. We believe Marx's work remains relevant, who in his 11th thesis on Feuerbach said, the philosophers have interpreted the world in different ways. The point, however, is to change it. And among those who are trying to change it is Basudev. But I just want to quote Lenin, what Lenin said in 1921. It is our bounden duty to spread among the proletariat the grim and inexorable truth that it is impossible to escape imperialist war and the imperialist world, which inevitably engenders imperialist war. It is impossible to escape that inferno except by a Bolshevik struggle and a Bolshevik revolution. So you can see an imperialist wars are continuing in the Middle East and Eastern Europe. Israel's war continues in Gaza. Syria has been run over by Al-Qaeda jihadi force rebranded as Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, or HTS, backed by Turkey, US, and Israel. In South Asia, Pakistan and Bangladesh are in turmoil. Students overthrew Sheikh Hasina, and the millionaire banker was appointed presumably by the US to rule temporarily. Sri Lanka has a new government where JVS, in its new incarnation as a social democratic party, has won in both houses of parliament and the presidency. In India, right-wing forces have consolidated power under Narendra Modi and are ruling for over a decade now. And in the US, Trump is the new president-elect for the second time, and he and Modi have a lot in common. In India, new developments have also been taking place for more than a decade. These are related to the world that is changing ever since the collapse of the USSR in 1991. The neoliberal era began in the last quarter of the 20th century. Economic crises that became apparent in the first decade of the 21st century is continuing. How these affect South Asia is the subject of the talk today, titled Indian Subcontinent, the Current Dumping Ground of Neoliberal Crisis and Emerging Revolutionary Upsurges, by our guest speaker today, who is Basudev Nag Chowdhury from Kolkata, India. He's joining us from India, Kolkata. Basudev is an organizer, an activist, and an organic intellectual. He is a physicist by education. He's a leader in a new Marxist-Leninist Communist Party based in Kolkata, West Bengal, called People's Brigade, which he, among others, helped found in the past few years after the Communist Party of India, Marxist, which is still the largest communist party by membership, was routed from West Bengal, which it ruled for over 30 years by a party called Trinamool Congress, a bourgeois political party led by a fiery orator, Mamata Banerjee. People's Brigade organized the tobacco workers making bidi, which is a wrapped tobacco leaf cigarette-like product, smoked by workers. People's Brigade also organizes all the rural workers and small peasants, especially women workers in West Bengal, India's fourth most populous state with 91 million population. Basudev Nag Chowdhury is also authoring a book, and we're hoping that he will finish it soon if he hasn't, which is titled Neoliberalism, the Stage of Irresolvable contradiction of capitalism. And so with that, please join me in welcoming Basudev Nag Chowdhury, Comrade Chowdhury. Thank you. Basudev, all yours.
Thank you, Raj. And thanks to everyone for joining this seminar, this talk. Today, the subject that we actually talked about before joining this, I talked with Raj and Alan a few days back. So then we decided to present our view on the current situation, what is actually highly discussed, but we are seeing that very little of the ground realities are actually coming out. And also, there are opinions mostly discussed and debated throughout the media and other things. Mostly the opinions are made by the corporate media and people are discussing over them. So what is actually happening that is not being analyzed on the basis of ground realities either, or from an entirety of the analytical view. So today I'll try to explain what is happening in not only in Bangladesh, but also in the Indian subcontinent, and especially how we will present our analysis on what is going on. That is very much related to what happened today actually in Syria. That is also connected thing. So let me start with the presentation. I don't know whether you can see the slide.
Not yet, not yet.
Not yet, yeah.
Okay, I'm trying to share it.
Yes, we can see it now. Thank you.
Can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So let's start with the image that I'm showing here. I would ask everyone to keep silence for a few seconds in memory of martyr Abu Sayyid Mugdo in the July Revolution of Bangladesh. Raj, can you just organize just a few seconds silence for him?
Okay, let's have 30-second silence. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you all. In fact, this photo is the last photo when he was alive, and he was shot at that condition by the police officers. He was open-chested to take the bullets for this revolution. And as we say, martyrs teach us to live only for revolution. So start with that essence.
Basudev, may I
of a
suggest
movement.
you do the slideshow option here? That will be better for viewing.
I'm sorry, slideshow.
On the top row, there is an option called slideshow that will give you a bigger picture of the slide. And then you can just proceed from there if you like to do it that way. On the top,
Is it slide control?
No, slideshow at the top, top band where it says home, insert, design, animation, slideshow. So if we hit the slideshow, you will get a bigger picture and then just you can follow up. Yeah, just above, go with the cursor above. Keep on raising the cursor up to the top row. Okay. No. Down below where it says home, where you are at the home right now.
Yeah.
Follow horizontally. Follow horizontally that.
Okay, just a minute. So actually this, yeah. So
Go further to the right on the same row. Yeah, above animation, after animation slideshow.
Yeah, slideshow.
Yeah, if you hit that,
Yeah.
and you do here, I think you can use the option of slideshow. Just hit that return button, on your thing. It should work that way. It says from the beginning. Yeah, from the beginning on the left side where it says, hit that. Yeah, if you hit that, now from the beginning it will do. It didn't do it. Anyway, I think we can proceed as it is.
Okay. So you can see the slides, right?
Yes, it's fine.
Okay, but it is not full screen, something like that, right?
Yeah, it's not full screen. That's what I was trying to do.
I think the slides are smaller for the screen. That's okay. So we can continue like this.
Okay. So this is the brief title that I'm focusing, Bangladesh and Revolutionary Crisis in the Indian Subcontinent. So what actually happened in Bangladesh? First, I'm presenting the facts, what happened there, what we got from different media and other things. So first, the students started the protest that was against a reservation of the third generation descendants of Mukti Yoddhas, of those are the freedom fighters of Bangladesh freedom. So there was a 30% reservation for their third generation descendants. Students started their protest against that reservation, that quota. So that was called the anti-discrimination movement by the students. That started in June 2024, this year. But actually, this type of movement has precedence in Bangladesh. In fact, 10 years back, there was a similar kind of movement with the same agenda. In 2018, there was also a students' movement with the same agenda. And now, in 2024, it has started with this.
Basudev, just one clarification. The reservation was for colleges or jobs or both?
Predominantly for colleges, but also for jobs. So in all government sectors, there will be 30% reservation for the third generation descendants of the freedom fighters of Bangladesh. In fact, practically what was happening, that this 30% quota was only for the Awami League members. because they were used to known as the Mukti Yodhas of Bangladesh, that is the freedom fighters of Bangladesh. Okay, so in practice, it was nothing but quota for the Awami League people. So that was happening, and people, not only the students, the entire Bangladesh people were having grievances against this Hasina government and Awami League. So what happened when the students' movement started, and it was actually spreading very fast, Hasina government started directly shutting down the colleges, universities, and they deployed their students' wing, that is the Chhatra League, and other Awami League workers to directly attack those student protesters who were actually in very large numbers. Students were actually in very large numbers, but the Chhatra League, that is the students' wing of Awami League of Sheikh Hasina's party, they actually acted like hooligans. They attacked with arms on this movement. It started like that. And then the students' protest actually got more intensified and more spread out. Then what we observed, nationwide shoot at sight curfew order, internet and mobile lockdowns. And what happened actually, in July, officially killed people, the number was more than 200, including more than 30 children.
Basudev, do you want to advance the slides, or is it okay to leave it as it is?
Yeah,
you're on the first slide.
Can you see the?
We're only seeing the first slide because you haven't moved to other slides yet.
Okay, then there is some problem. Okay, I think there is some problem. Just a minute.
Yeah.
It is not escaping.
Usually this software doesn't work too well with the Zoom. So if you
okay, now it's moving. Yeah. Now we come to the other slide. Good.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah.
Okay. So now you can see, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So in fact, what happened in July, when this protest got more intensified, in fact, more than 200 people were killed, more than 30 children, including more than 30 children, 20,000 injured, and more than 10,000 arrests. These are official reports. Allegedly,
Awami League is the ruling.
Yeah, Awami League was the ruling party. Yeah, Sheikh Hasina's party is the Awami League, and their students' wing is Chhatra League. They were actually attacking these protesters, and in the counter attack, in fact, this counter attack by the students was peaceful demonstrations by them, but later it took a different shape. Like when the major working people from many districts, they joined this movement against Sheikh Hasina government, Sheikh Hasina at the power, then it got a little violent movement also in places, not in the central region, but in places. And then actually what we got news from different media, that this July massacre, this July killing by the government, that was not only done by Hasina government, but Hasina government involved raw officers to mastermind this July massacre. So allegedly, raw has
is
made
the India's intelligence.
Right. RAW is the Indian
Just
intelligence,
state
like
as a-
CIA in USA and KGB in Russia. RAW is in India. So RAW officers were allegedly RAW officers were actually asked by Sheikh Hasina to operate as mastermind of this July massacre operation. And it is also being heard that it is the same RAW team who operated in Kashmir during revoke of Article 370 there. It's the same RAW team which acted in Bangladesh at that time. And as we got news from different media that RAW officers, RAW said that on July 28, they said that Bangladesh situation has been tackled, and they came out from Bangladesh, and then CIA took the charge and said something different. So these are the news from different media. And then we can see just on August 5, Hasina resigned and escaped out to India. Muhammad Yunus, the Nobel laureate economist, and in fact, a millionaire banker, he took charge of the interim government on August 8. And still, a significant unrest is going on in Bangladesh. Now, in this interim government, majority of the advisors are employed by Muhammad Yunus's advisors. In fact, majority of them are pro-US, that is for sure. But there are only 2 advisors who are from the student leaders. And still we cannot confirm that these 2 student leaders are also pro-US completely. We are not observing that. We are not seeing that. We are continuously taking close view to these student leaders, those who are playing their role as advisors of the interim government, and also the other student leaders who are operating on the grounds. They are acting in a different way. So there are different streams, there are different trains, those are going on in Bangladesh. So we are going to discuss those things. But what we can see, at least what we can see, that a peaceful, maximum they took some tree rods like bamboos as their weapons. None of them even took any gun or bombs or anything like that. Okay, so it was almost a peaceful overthrow of the government, and that is not an electoral overthrow of the government, of the ruling party. It was just they ousted the ruling party from their country. That is why we are terming this as a revolution. But we are not claiming that this revolution is a socialist revolution, or we are not claiming that this revolution is even a democratic revolution as yet, because it is still not successful. Only an interim government has been formed. Now many things are coming in near future that we can see. But there are 2 opinions. Before going to that, just our question is, what is the root cause what has happened in Bangladesh? So many people, almost 90% of the people came out of streets, led by the students. They overthrew the government, the ruling party at the government. They are still on the roads. They're still continuing their movements for rebuilding a new Bangladesh. So what is happening and what has happened that this situation has come up? There are two common opinions that is roaming about through different sections of politically interested people. One is that it is just a temporal turmoil, nothing else, nothing more than that. And the second opinion is that it is just an US coup in Bangladesh. So these are the two opinions, those are roaming around. Let me first clear that we are not of that opinion. We are clearly claiming that this is a revolution that has taken place in Bangladesh. Still, it is not a successful one. This revolution could overthrow the ruling party from the power. Right now, US corporates have semi-captured the power of the interim government. There are other forces working in Bangladesh, and we have to see through what is coming in the coming days. So we have to wait a little for that. But before that, what is our analysis? What is the root cause? What has happened? Is this just this small country? In fact, if we see in the world map, then the area of Bangladesh is in fact negligible size, right? So why are we so interested in Bangladesh? And if even US is now capturing the interim government in the Bangladesh, why a great superpower like US is interested in this small country? These are the questions. So let us start with our analysis. In our opinion, firstly, this is not only the condition of Bangladesh, but it is the condition of the entire Indian subcontinent. And this entire Indian subcontinent situation, we are observing a revolutionary crisis that has emerged in this Indian subcontinent. And it has three sources and three components. These are the same three sources and these are the same three components. It is not that we have different three sources and different three components. The 3 points, these are the sources and these are the components of this situation. Number one, that is the crisis of neoliberal economy originated in the West. West means I'm talking about Western Europe and USA, Canada, etc. The crisis of neoliberal economy originated in the West. That is one source. The second point is transportation of the crisis by foreign trading in national currencies. That is a mechanism how the crisis can be transported from one nation to another. And the third point is political vacuum in the Indian subcontinent. These are the three sources of the current revolutionary situation, and these are the three components of the current revolutionary situation. So the revolutionary situation is created in the Indian subcontinent by these 3 points, and how this situation will move on, that will be dependent on these 3 components. So that is why I'm saying that these are the 3 sources and 3 components together. The point is, I'm not going into the detail of how this neoliberal crisis is originated in the West, because that is a different subject, and I have delivered talk in your forum before on this. And how this crisis is transported from one country to another, one nation to another. That is also a very interesting part of economy. But I'm not going into detail of that, but just I'm showing again one figure. Here we have plotted the stocks traded throughout the world as a percentage of the world GDP. And we can see stocks traded means it is the virtual production. And this virtual production is continuously increasing with respect to GDP, and it is sometimes like overshooting the GDP. And that overshooting, those transient strokes of these stocks trading, those are more than even GDP. That means the virtual production and their trades, those are overshooting the real production. That is happening consecutively in cycles, and these cycles are observed to come in almost in 8 to 9 years. We can see, if you see my cursor, in 1992, it observed the asset bubble collapse in Japan. In 2000, it was the origin, the epicenter of the crisis was USA, the Y2K, or commonly what we call dot-com collapse. Then in 2008, in US and Europe, we know it as subprime crisis. Then in 2016, it was USA and China currency crisis. We still don't have the data for 2024 or 23 like this, but we can expect that after this 8 years, in this 8-year cycle, this 2024, 2025, this time is again the time of this type of strokes, right?
So Basudev, let me just ask a clarifying question so that all participants can better understand what you're saying. By virtual production, you mean stocks themselves or something else?
It is not only the stocks, those are actually traded over the real products. These are also virtual stocks. Those still have not been produced. Trading can be done, stocks trading can be done on those even. Like suppose some vaccine will be produced after 1 year, and the stocks are being traded now on those vaccines. Like some real estate, some flat will be made after it will be completed after 3 years, and now they are trading their stocks. Okay, so it has a very big component of this virtual stock. This is commonly called in terms of economy as derivative trading. So that has a big share now in the net stocks trading. So that is why we are saying that these are the virtual stocks. These are the virtual productions. The real productions are not there, and that is why it was possible that you can see in all these strokes, in these transient strokes, at that time the shares traded, those were valued more than the GDP, and that is not in any country. It was around the world. The total stocks traded around the world is overshooting the total GDP of the world. That means the virtual trading is more than the real production. That is happening, and that is why on the after year you can see a collapse of that entire economy, right? So alongside the deepening crisis of capitalism itself, these transient cyclic crises are also coming in. That is a very selective and very specific feature of neoliberal crisis, which we call temporal overproduction in our language. Okay, so this is happening, and we were expecting, that is why that this 2024-2025 2023, 2024, 2025, this time, it is not exactly always the same year, right? So we are expecting that these years will observe extreme crises around the world, economic crisis. And corresponding situations will evolve. Now, the point is, even coming to this year, if we look back just a little, we can remember that even in 2022, the entire European nations and USA, they observed extreme hike in the inflation suddenly. So what happened then? I started with Bangladesh. Now I'm completely departed from Bangladesh. I'm coming to US and European countries. You may you may get surprised at why I'm talking about these things, but soon we will see how this matters. Okay, so let's move on. So you can see, I think you can see the slide, right?
Yes.
So just see the inflation in 2022, the lower portion of the slide. Inflation in the 2022, that was in USA, it was 9%, in Canada, it was 8.1%, in UK, it was 11%, in Germany, it was 8.8%, in France, it was 6.2%. Okay, and in Italy, it was something like, I cannot see.
12%.
Yeah, 12%. So these values were the inflation in 2022, where the last decade average values were 1.6 to 2%. The entire last decade values of inflation in these countries were something less than 2%. And suddenly it got a rise up to 8, 9, or 12%. So that happened. So what happened before that, if we see, in 2021, just in the previous year, the GDP growth rate, that also heightened. In USA, it was 5.9%, in Canada, 4.5%, in UK, 7.5%. Only in Germany, it was not very high. In France, 6.8%, in Italy, it's more than 6%. Even this GDP growth rate was too low in the previous decade. That was less than 3% in all these countries. I have considered here the G7 countries, excluding Japan, because Japan is outside this Western part. I'm not considering that Japan is in a different situation, a little bit different situation. I'm not discussing that here. Okay. The point is, we can remember that 2020 and 2021, we are suffering from lockdown. So apparently all the productions were getting diminished. Then how could it happen that in 2021, the GDP growth rate suddenly got so much high? So that was the game, that actually lockdown shifted. It did not stop the production. It actually shifted the mode of production, what we call in an ultra neoliberal mode, toward the digital, online, and service-led programs. At that time, you can see like companies like Bill Gates, Zuckerberg of Facebook, or Jeff Bezos of Amazon, they came to the front. They got extreme hike in their profit. And the entire production actually turned into this direction. So that is one part. But the important part is that through lockdown, in the time of lockdown, actually the most striking phenomenon is that the GDP growth rate suddenly got hike when it was lockdown. And the next year, it suffered from inflation. All these countries suffered from inflation. And this is what we actually discussed in our previous talk, that this is the very feature of neoliberal production mode, that if you increase your GDP, the mode of production is such that inflation will increase. So that is the tie-up between GDP growth rate and inflation in this neoliberal mode of production. That I'm not going to discuss that in this talk. I discussed that previously, and that has been written also in the chapters of the book that I'm currently preparing. Some of the chapters has been published in a web magazine. So anyway, the point is, I'm coming back to the previous slide, the transportation of crisis. You can see in 1992, the epicenter was in Japan. In 2000, it was USA. In 2008, it shifted more toward European nations, also in US, but more toward European nations. Then in 2016, it shifted to USA and China. So epicenters are like shifting from one epicenter to another epicenter. Crisis is transporting. And also, in fact, these imperialist, which we call imperialist nations, they export their crisis to other nations through foreign trading. That is what we have shown here as the point number 2, transportation of crisis by foreign trading in national currencies. So what is happening? I'm just telling you in just 2 sentences, in very short, in very brief, that after the fall of Bretton Woods system, we all export or import our goods or services to or from other countries in not in gold standard, but in foreign exchanges. Like India, if India does a business, a foreign trading with US, then that will be done in US dollar, right? Not in gold standard, but in US dollar. Now, if the amount of if US is suffering from crisis, and if that US dollar is coming into Indian economy as its reserve, then actually that crisis is coming into India. Because this money, this currency is a representative of the entire economy. It is very interesting. It was actually described by Marx himself in Capital when he was explaining the role of money in its different roles. Money has very different types of surprising roles. The point is, suppose at least we can discuss, and we should discuss 2 things. One is that money is representation of the wealth, right? Money is representation of the wealth, how much it is accumulated on the basis of that. If you have accumulated an amount of money, you have that much of wealth. And more the money is in circulation, more it represents the value of the products, that is the value of the economy. So the point is, if you accumulate the entire money, entire currency, then it will no longer present the values because they are not in circulation. And if the entire money is in circulation, then it is not accumulated, so it will not represent the wealth. So that is a conflict inherent to the concept of money, right? But now, looking to the present situation, since the businesses are going on in dollars and pounds and euros, so suppose India is exporting some commodity to any country and it is getting dollar instead of it. And that dollar is being reserved in the Central Bank of India. That is RBI. So that is called foreign exchange reserve. Now this reserve, now if US is suffering from crisis, then dollar is suffering from crisis. And if we have reserved a lump sum amount of dollar, then that accumulated wealth is in crisis. Instead of that dollar, in fact, that equivalent money is in circulation of the Indian economy. So Indian economy will suffer from that crisis. Okay. So in any case, by trading through these national currencies like dollars, pounds, euros, yen, the crisis can be transported from these countries to the others. Okay. So now, what we saw that in 2022, this US, Canada, UK, Germany, France, they all got this hike, this inflation. They could not transport their crisis. Why? Why they could not transport their crisis? So that is the situation due to this point. Can you see this photo?
Yes.
Okay, so this is the Black Sea. This Black Sea, Black Sea has a very serious relation with European trades. 1.8 million barrels of crude oil is exported each day through this Black Sea. We all know that Ukraine is known as the Europe's breadbasket because they export food grains not only to Europe, to the entire world. More than 50 million ton grains are exported to Europe from Ukraine. And also Ukraine exports steel to the European countries. 40% of Europe's steel is imported from Ukraine. So Black Sea is the center of this entire trading. All the shipments are done in the Black Sea. And interestingly, in 2022, what happened, we all can remember, the Russia-Ukraine war started. So this happened to Black Sea. So that is why the entire European trade, the Western trade through Black Sea, that was interrupted completely. And they could not transport their crisis to other nations. That is why they could not manage their inflation. They could have been able to manage their inflation in 2022 if they could import commodities, they could leave their currencies to the other countries as their reserve so that their crisis is transported to others. But that was interrupted highly. Still, in fact, the last week, IMF has published its data on European nations. They are still claiming, IMF is still claiming that Europe is still under the crisis situation. They are not being able to manipulate the crisis situation. It is the last week's news from IMF. Now coming to Indian subcontinent. So you can see, I'm only considering the export from Indian subcontinent. I'm considering only 4 countries: Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, India, and Pakistan. Those are the most important countries here. So I'm considering only these 4 countries in the Indian subcontinent and considering only their exports. Why? Because through their export, they are attracting external currencies to their countries as their foreign exchange reserves, right? Like if they export their commodities, they will gain dollars and pounds and euros and yens, etc. Right? So their foreign exchange currency will be accumulated. Okay. The point is, if they can accumulate this much of currencies through their export, then through those currencies, actually, they will import the crisis also. Now, where these countries export their commodities maximum, you can see Bangladesh, the highest export from Bangladesh is to US, 20% of its total export, to Germany 15%, to UK 11%, to Spain 5.9%, to France 5.6%. You can see Sri Lanka, similar orders like to US, UK, India definitely, Italy and Germany. India exports to US, UAE, Netherlands, China and UK. Pakistan to US, China, UK, Germany and Netherlands. Mostly you can see the common features is that they are exporting maximum to US, that is of the order of 20%, each of these countries, and to the European nations, mainly the G7, the countries belonging to the G7, right? So you can see the map right down there. This is the Indian subcontinent. If you can see the cursor here.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the Indian subcontinent, the small region. It is exporting their commodities to European countries and USA. That is maximum of their export. And through these exports, and definitely through other exports also, they are collecting foreign exchange reserves to be the dollars, pounds, euros, etc. So they are actually taking in the crisis of these countries, like Europe and USA and others. Now, the point is, the trading by Europe and US was interrupted due to the Black Sea problem, that is the Russia-Ukraine war. So they were not being able to transport their crisis. Now what happened? In response, in 2022, that Black Sea region was completely shut down, right? In 2022, the Black Sea region was completely shut down due to Russia-Ukraine war. In response, what happened in the next year? To see that, we have to understand that this trading, what I have shown here, this trading region, so how this Indian subcontinent trade their products to Europe and USA. This is the channel. They do not export, Indian subcontinent do not export through Black Sea. They export through Red Sea and through Suez Canal at this point. So this thin red area, this is the Red Sea, through which the entire Indian subcontinent actually transports its products for foreign trading. You can see Bangladesh exports 61% from Red Sea. We could not get the data for Sri Lanka, but we can get this data that from Colombo port, 7 million TEU containers per year, those are transported. India exports 50% through Red Sea, Pakistan 60%, and they import also more than 30% and something like that. So the entire trade of subcontinent with the US and Europe, that takes place through this Red Sea, this region. And just at this corner of this Red Sea, what is there? That is the conflict region between Israel and Palestine. So this started. Israel-Palestine war started in 2023. Now, what happened? So now, due to this war situation, Indian subcontinent, they cannot trade their products through Red Sea. Now they are moving down to Africa, then rounding about South Africa, they are going to Cape of Good Haven, Cape of Good Hope, and then from that port they are trading their goods to Europe and US.
Basudev, may I ask you how much more time do you need?
Well, I think I need 10 minutes more.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Okay. So this is the situation. So for that part, since they need to go around entire African countries and then to reach the port to sell their products to Europe and US, now the shipping cost got 300% hike. So now, after this war started, in fact, the cost of this exporting from Indian subcontinent, that got a hike. So more reserve should come in. And that means more of the crisis is coming to India and Indian subcontinent. But there is a situation we have to be very clear. Hello? Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible. Yes, you are.
Okay. So one part is that foreign exchange reserve, if the foreign exchange reserve in the Indian subcontinent is low, that means they will have less amount of wealth, less amount of their economic value. And if they increases their foreign exchange derivatives, foreign exchange currencies, foreign exchange reserves, that means they will actually attract more crises from these countries like US and European nations. So it's a conflict that I'm coming again. But before that, what I'm saying, what I have tried to say, if I sum up, that Russia-Ukraine war started in 2022 so that the European nations and US could not transport their crises to the other nations. Since the Black Sea trading was completely interrupted, then they started, then these European nations and US, they actually inspired or motivated the Israel-Palestine war so that the Red Sea is also get interrupted, and this Indian subcontinent, who are the large exporters to these countries, to US and European nations, they are compelled to trade their products through a larger route so that the cost gets higher, so that more dollars and pounds and euros are coming into Indian subcontinent so that the crisis is transported to this Indian subcontinent. And if some Indian subcontinent country cannot trade their products, they cannot get their reserves, foreign reserves, they also get their economic value reduced. So it's a two-way die-die situation, right, for Indian subcontinent. So that is why we are saying that now through these trade chains, actually, and especially through these two wars, Indian subcontinent got as they are the dump yard of this entire economic crisis. Right? Now, point is, this is our claim. So the question is that really happening? Or has that really happened? Let's see the data. You can see this is the foreign exchange reserve of Bangladesh, India, Pakistan, and Sri Lanka. You can see in 2022, it started declining because the trading was completely interrupted with the West. And then in 2023, it started again rising. Why? Because this Red Sea situation, due to this Red Sea situation, the trading is interrupted, but most importantly, now the trading is happening in a larger route so that the cost has been raised. So more foreign exchange reserves are coming into Indian subcontinent. Only Bangladesh could not, in fact, manage this trade through this larger route because they are much smaller economy, so that they, and also they already started the revolutionary situation there. They already got the upsurge there. The point is, the entire Indian subcontinent is in this situation. And this situation can be mostly understood what we call as Stalin's bird. Stalin actually illustrated this situation by illustrating a bird whose legs are actually confined in a mud. So now, if the bird is trying to save its face, its tail is getting dipped into the mud. If it tries to save its tail, its face is getting into the mud. So it is a die-die situation. Foreign reserve low, that means wealth declining. Foreign reserve high, that means imported crisis. So in any way, in any side, the Indian subcontinent is now the dump yard of the neoliberal crisis. We call it money matters. Now, actually, money matters. So what happened? In Indian subcontinent, what happened? We can see the July revolution in Bangladesh. Because in this economic situation, people will respond aggressively. How they will respond, that depends on many subjective factors. Most importantly, I have to go back again to this slide, and the third point, the political vacuum in the Indian subcontinent. That is very important. What we are trying to say when you are talking about this political vacuum, what does it mean? It means then that the government is incumbent and the opposition parties are also incumbent. That means people have no trust, no faith in either the ruling party or in the opposition. That condition, we are calling it a political vacuum. And that is the situation in the entire Indian subcontinent. That is also the important point, that it is not only that it is the dump yard of the neoliberal crisis, but also this dump yard of the neoliberal crisis, it leads to a revolutionary situation. If this political vacuum was not there, then the manifestation of this crisis would be something like to flip the government, like what is happening in US and other European countries. They are just flipping the governments because still they can manage, they can manipulate their people. But in Indian subcontinent, people do not have their faith either in the ruling parties or in the opposition parties. That is why July Revolution took place in Bangladesh, led by the students. It started from a different agenda and took completely different shape. It started with anti-discrimination movement, but changed to overthrow the Hasina government, and they captured the power. They formed the interim government. Definitely now the interim government is in the hand of US mostly, but there are different trends. Those are going on. I'm coming to this. The second country is Sri Lanka, where the communists are now in power through election. They could be able to capture the power. This Communist Party, JVP, they themselves claim that they are Marxist-Leninists. They actually, their history is very rich. They tried to they tried two insurrections in Sri Lanka, armed insurrection in 70s and in 80s, and now they have come up with electoral power capture. In fact, in the last election, this party was it was able to get only 4% vote, and now they have come to the power with 40% vote in the presidential election, and in the later half of the elections, in the other body elections, they are now getting more than 60% votes. The two big parties in Sri Lanka, those were in ruling party and opposition, both are rejected by the people. And this party is a non-elite working party. And this movement was actually, this was a revolution actually Sri Lanka observed in 2022. And now in 2024, they are coming to the power. Similar unprecedented agitations are being observed in India and Pakistan. In India, in many places, this type of agitations are every day. Different regions of India are observing protest and agitations in large numbers of people coming to the streets. The same situation in Pakistan. We expect in India and Pakistan, we may observe, we may see a new uprise led by the women workers. That is for a subjective reason that a practical situation in India and Pakistan is that women workers' condition is extremely suppressing in these two countries, and they are now revolting. We are actually, from ground reality, we are observing that. So we are expecting that in India and Pakistan, similar kinds of upsurge are actually coming, and it is possible that women workers will be the leaders of this upsurge. Now, the condition of Bangladesh, what is now happening? In one side, firstly, in the interim government that is being actually run by US imperialism, in the mass, there are Islamist reactionary forces, but that is actually very marginalized. What is being campaigned or spread through corporate media is not actually true. The Islamic reactionary forces are enough marginalized there. And definitely some communal tensions are going on there, but how it is being presented by the corporate media is not at all true. Okay. But there is an Islamic reactionary force. Mostly the mass level is captured by this section, the revolutionary people led by the students, and they still have a very significant revolutionary aspiration. People are, a majority of the people are against this US-led interim government also. That is also true. They all know Muhammad Yunus's model of microfinance. Okay, so they are actually practically they are practically looted by these microfinances. So they know from their ground reality. So they are against this US imperialism also, but predominantly they are against the Indian state's imperialism. Chinese influence is also a game there. The Chinese government is meeting with BNP and other forces, different streams. They are also connecting to revolutionary students. That is a different game that is also going on. But mostly, these revolutionary people are now against US imperialism and Indian imperialism. I'm just illustrating one thing. Adani Group, that is an Indian big corporate. This Adani Group has tied with Sheikh Hasina government for providing them electricity. And that electricity charge is 27% more than the other private electricity companies in India. What Adani Group is charging, it was a pact with Hasina government for providing electricity in Bangladesh by the Adani Energies. The prices they said that is 27% more than other private electricity providers in India. They are also big corporates. But that charge is 27% more. And in India, there are many big state-owned electricity providers. The price of that electricity for Bangladesh that Adani has said, that is 63% more than the prices set by state-owned companies in India to provide electricity. 63% more. So if even India wants to do business, electricity business with Bangladesh, suppose they will provide electricity to Bangladesh, then if the state-owned companies provide their electricity, if they even take a 3% more price than India, that also should not be done from my perspective. That should not be done with the neighboring countries. But even if they keep 3% more prices from Bangladesh for providing electricity there, even then the price would be what Adani has said, that would be 60% less. So this is how Indian imperialism through big corporates are exploiting and looting Bangladesh people. And the same Adani team, this Adani group, they have taken loan from SBI, that is the largest public bank of India. They have taken loan that is now going to be non-performing asset, and that values at $4 billion. So the same Adani group, they have taken loan from our public bank, that is our money, that is Indian people's money. They have taken that loan, and that is now being non-performing asset. That means they are not repaying, and that amount is $4 billion. So it is the same big corporate group. They are looting Bangladesh people and the Indian people. So this is the situation of imperialism here that is happening. Okay. And now US in between this, I'm just trying to stop here because I can answer more if you ask questions. Now, what is US doing here? And in between, there are different political tactics were going on. So I'm not going to discuss that. I'm just ending with this. What we are looking for now, we are looking for, because as Raj started with that, from Marxist point of view, the point is not to analyze only, to analyze in such a manner so that we can do something. So what we are looking for, what we are trying to do, and what we need to do, that is the question. How to change the situation? Whatever is happening, how to change the situation? So stepwise, what I can say, that is our view of People's Brigade. Firstly, a new party of revolutionary students and working class. That needs in power of the Bangladesh. We need a new party of the revolutionary students and working class to get the power of Bangladesh government. Second, in Sri Lanka, JVP to develop a new nation against imperialism, all kind of imperialism. Third, non-elite workers in the power of different provinces of India, because we believe that in India, with its different kinds of situation and very different kinds of political history and culture, right now the situation is such that at a time all the provinces will upsurge. That will not happen. There are different situations. So non-elite workers in the power of different provinces in India, that is one important part. Fourth, women workers led power capture in Pakistan, that is possible. And we are looking for that. Then with these upsurges and anti-imperialist subcontinent coalition, that is most important part. The entire Indian subcontinent must go for an anti-imperialist subcontinent coalition. Then we need United Africa and United Latin America out there. We saw that the trading are now through South Africa and Cape of Good Hope. That will no longer be of good hope if this continues. And we know what is happening in Venezuela right there. Nicolas Maduro is the president of Venezuela, and he is directly attacked by Elon Musk. So for the first time, we see that a big corporate is directly attacking a sovereign country's president. That is happening. And finally, if all these subcontinents and third world countries stand against imperialism, then the West, that is the US and European nations, the working people, the non-elite working people of US and European nation, they will go for upsurge. So that is what we are looking for. So I'm ending it here.
Thank you, Basudev. Very interesting presentation. Thank you very, very much. What we're going to do now, we're going to have a few minutes break. Maybe you can catch a quick nap, because in the middle, you're past the middle of the night. I hope you can stay for question answers. And then we'll go for question and comment period. I'm sure you can be a lot of questions. It's a very different perspective that people here are not exposed to, including me. Okay, so it's something very exciting. Okay, so what I'm going to do, for announcement, is next Sunday, we're going to have Rick Sterling speaking on Syria. And Alan, if you have any further detail, please say so. He's just back from his trip. Of course, the Syrian government fell, and some Al-Qaeda renamed as Hayat al-Tahrir, the HTS has taken power. So that would be Rick Sterling, and be very timely and very interesting presentation next week. And then we'll announce for what's going on after that. You can also go to our website, which will be Marxist.org, ICSSmarxist.org, sorry, ICSSmarxist.org. There you will see past programs and upcoming program. You can sign up so you get a notice for the upcoming programs. You can also make contribution, because we do have some expenses and we need money, particularly for technical support. We pay people to do that. So, okay, I don't have anything further. I would say since the program has run longer than an hour, a very important and interesting program. Let's go to the question answer period. Please raise your hands. And by now, you know how to do it, but you go to, in my thing, it is under more, but there are different versions of Zoom. And then you go to reactions and go to, you may have reaction button right on the bottom. And then you raise your hand by pushing, hitting the raise hand button. And then I will try to follow sequentially, but not necessarily sequentially. And I'll call upon them, people to ask either question or make a comment. Keep your questions and comments brief, definitely under 2 minutes. I'll ask Alan to keep time. And so that's my thing. And I think we can start the questions. So first person to ask the question is Mehmet Behram. Mehmet, go ahead.
Hi, it was a very good presentation. Thank you for doing it. A couple of questions I have very briefly. One is that you said either way, the crisis is exported to the Indian continent, whether they have the foreign reserves or not, high or low. I can understand the low reserves because it kind of puts the pressure on the trade or what they want to buy, import. But the high rate of foreign reserves, I don't know if you meant it by because the dollar is already in some crisis, and by that mean the crisis is being exported there. Now, the second thing is that we have seen the bottlenecks of trade, as you have shown very good in Black Sea and the Egyptian, the Red Sea. But these wars were actually provoked by the West, let me say, or imperialist forces. Now, if the Indian continent is having crisis due to this type of the trade being squeezed, but the West also feels the pressure of this. So why would they allow these wars, and why would they try to prolong it if it also hits them? Thank you for your presentation again.
Thank you very much. Can I answer, Raj?
Yeah, go ahead. We'll take one.
Yes, thank you. The two questions are very important, very interesting questions. In fact, the first one, if I talk about, it is very clear that if the foreign exchange reserve is low, then the amount of wealth is low, amount of purchasing power is low, so the country will go to crisis. That is very easy to understand. But when it is increasing, so how it is happening? Like when some trading is occurred, right? Suppose one corporate company, it is selling its product to abroad, and dollar is coming in. Okay, then that dollar is going to the Central Bank of India. The equivalent money in Indian currency, that is suppose rupees, that will come to the Indian domestic market. So whatever the foreign exchange reserve will be there in the central banks, the equivalent amount of money will be in the domestic market. Now, if that foreign exchange reserve is under economic crisis, they are getting suffered by economic crisis, then that crisis is actually transporting to the domestic market of the Indian or other countries, right? For example, if suppose USA is exhibiting an inflation, okay, their domestic inflation. Now, if India is exporting some product to US, then the equivalent dollar is coming to India. It is going to suppose central bank, and the equivalent money is in the domestic market. Now the point is, this is due to external trade, right? But in Indian domestic market, then the amount of the products and the currencies in circulation, the currencies in circulation is more than the amounts of the products right now. Because this extra money is coming from abroad. So if the money in circulation is more compared to the products that are actually domestically sold or traded, then that money will gets devalued, or you can say an equivalent inflation will occur. So in fact, inflation from US will be transported to Indian economy. So this is the method how through trades in currencies, in national currencies, because dollar is not only the medium of exchange between two other nations, it is also the domestic currency of US. Similar for euro and pound and yen. So these currencies are bringing their domestic crisis to the other countries. So this is how happening. So this is the answer to the first question. This is a very complicated economic thing, but this is actually happening. And the second part, and that can be actually observed by comparing the inflation values are actually calculated by two methods. One is GDP deflator and another is CPI. So CPI actually considers the foreign trade as well, but GDP deflator does not. So if you compare these two values, they are different, and that difference is due to this transported or exported crisis. Okay, so that can be observed from this data. The second point is, in fact, the Russia-Ukraine war that was started by Russia, in fact, the situation was NATO versus Russia that was going on from decade-long thing. But at that time, it was started by Russia, and European nations and US was not prepared for that. They suffered from the interruption in the Black Sea trading. And that is why their trading was interrupted, and they could not export their crises, their currencies, their crisis through the currencies. They could not export that to the other countries, like Indian subcontinent and others. And also, they were suffering from what I show in the slides, that firstly, crude oil, a huge crude oil export is done through that Black Sea. Second, fruit grains of Ukraine. In fact, after that war, what UN first tried to start a new agreement on that food grain thing, and they went for an agreement with Russia to first, whatever war is going on, first leave the food grains. That was the contract, European food grain contract. So that was done by UN, because that was one part they were trying to manipulate their crisis. And the third thing was steel. Mostly Europe gets its steel from Ukraine. That was also interrupted. Now, the European and entire US and European economy was suffering from the crisis from their own inherent thing, that in 2021, they raised their production in the lockdown situation, actually, because that is the crisis of capitalism, that capitalism is not a planned economy. It can never be a planned economy because it is private-owned economy. So private owners, they started doing business at the lockdown situation, and that got so much high that GDP growth was much, much higher than the entire average of the previous decade. And due to neoliberal economy, it was followed by the corresponding inflation. That inflation, they could not actually transport to the other countries due to Russia and Ukraine war. Then it was the Red Sea situation that was promoted by US and European nations mostly. And now today what has happened in Syria, HTS has captured the power. In fact, the prime minister is doing the thing, but they have in agreement like he will transfer the power to the so-called rebels. They are not rebels. They are actually backed by Al-Qaeda. They are the Al-Qaedan force. And definitely Turkey has a backing right there. But Israel may have a conflict with Al-Qaeda. That is happening since a few years. Okay, so there is also a very conflicting situation. It is not so simple that it is just an US coup. It is an US coup because that is also surrounding that Black Sea. They are trying to manipulate the Black Sea in their favor because it is now in Russia's favor. So it is just an imperialist warfare that is happening there. So the bottom line of the Black Sea, that is Syria, that has now captured by US-backed Al-Qaeda force, that is HTS. But they have also conflict with Israel. So that is not very. We are not seeing that very simple things are going to happen. Okay, we may have to wait a little more to see what is happening right there. And the point is, important part is that Israel-Palestine war is promoted by this Western imperialism so that the trade, the export from Indian subcontinent cannot be done from that channel straightforward. Indian subcontinent has to export their commodities to European nations and US. Now they need a shipment cost that is 300 times more. So that means that that much of foreign currency reserve that will come to Indian subcontinent, and that is happening. You can see that after 23, again the foreign exchange reserve graph is increasing. So that is the Red Sea situation. Okay, so that is why this war is launched actually, and that is continuing, still continuing.
Okay, so the next person is Richard Wright. Richard, please go ahead. And you answer Richard Wright before we go to Janet Cobran, who will be the next one.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me start off by saying I was not impressed with your economic analysis. I think you were doing a lot of cherry picking of your alleged data. I don't know where you're getting your data from, for one thing. But in any case, my real question here is this. During your presentation, you brought up Chinese imperialism, you brought up Russian imperialism, you brought up Indian imperialism, and there's been a lot of that imperialism stuff thrown around by leftists, and I'm not sure that we can ascribe imperialism to China. I'm not sure we can ascribe imperialism really to Russia at this point. Nor I'm not even sure where you know, how you can ascribe imperialism to India. So could you maybe elaborate on your definition or of your you know, how you get to this imperialism by various nationalities instead of the classic, you know, well, I'll just let you handle it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Richard. Firstly, I have not said China as an imperialist power. I said China has an influence right there. If you see this, see again the slide, I told about Indian imperialism. I told about US imperialism. For China, I have said China's influence. So because China has a communist government right there, but they are how they are running their system, that is not very much different from capitalism altogether. that is a different part, but yet they have different tendencies, like they are also working on their social development, socio-economic development. They are working for their reducing the inequalities. Those are also happening, but mostly their economy is based upon the neoliberal capitalism. It is nothing much different from neoliberal capitalism, what is going on in US and other European nations or in Russia. And the question of yours is that how am I defining imperialism? I'm defining imperialism just as Lenin did. What was Lenin's definition of imperialism? Lenin's definition of imperialism is, it is nothing but the monopoly of capitalism. Wherever there is monopoly of capitalism, that stage is imperialism. You cannot deny it, you cannot choose it, or you cannot reject it. If you have monopoly capitalism in your society, it will be imperialist. That is why Lenin said it is not any choice. What actually Kautsky and others used to say, that imperialism is a choice of this force of these countries like Germany and England at that time, and France, others. But Lenin described, he explained that this is a stage of capitalism. This is not a policy that is adopted. It is the stage of capitalism, and it is nothing but the monopoly of capitalism. When capitalism reaches its monopoly stage, it will definitely be imperialist, because it will collaborate with the bank capital, it will form the finance capital. This bank capital and industrial capital, they will merge to form the finance capital. And this dominance of this finance capital will rule the entire world. So that is the theory of Lenin. That is imperialism. And we are defining imperialism just in that way. So wherever we are talking about the Adani Group in India, this Adani Group is now amongst the top 10 capitalists in the world. As an economy, India is much behind US. That is true. But in that India, there is Adani Group, there is Ambani Group. They are belonging to the top 20 capitalists in the world. So imperialism is now spreaded in different countries in different layers. Definitely, there is a difference between US imperialism and Indian imperialism. But they all are imperialist because they all are in the stage of monopoly capitalism, and they have in their part these monopoly capitalist owners. They are ruling their countries, their nations, and not only their countries, they are actually doing their imperialist businesses in the other countries. Like Adani is doing in Bangladesh, in Sri Lanka, in Pakistan. They are doing so. So that is how we are defining imperialism.
Okay, so Janet Coburn, you're next.
Thank you for an excellent presentation. I learned a lot. You used the term non-elite workers, which was refreshing to me. Would you elaborate what you mean by it? In other words, who is a non-elite worker and who is not? And for those who are not, do you consider them workers nonetheless? And do you have a term for them? Would you share your contact information on the chat with us?
Yeah, sure, definitely. Thank you very much, Janet. It's a very interesting question. In fact, in my last talk, I described this in detail. I'm just briefing this. If you remember about Lenin's analysis of imperialism, again, I'm going back to Lenin's analysis. At that time, he explained that in the imperialist countries, they were getting the extra surplus from the colonies, and from that extra surplus, they are bribing their own workers. So they are giving much more salary and different benefits to their workers, so that Lenin termed them as the aristocrat labor, and somewhere he said they are the bribed laborers. And they were actually the opportunist class at that time. And at that time, the colony and the second world countries workers were the non-elite workers in that sense. If the imperialist countries workers were the aristocrat laborers, then the non-elites were belonging to the other countries where they revolted, actually. Now, in the present situation, in any country, you can see there is an intermediate and internal imperial structures in each country. It is not only that US and European nations are the imperialists. In any country, you can see there are imperialist groups, and below them, different types of corporates and capitalist groups. And similarly, in workers' case, some of the workers are bribed by these monopoly capitalists. In all the countries. In all the countries, you can see two kinds of workers. Some workers are getting much more benefits, much more salary, very high wages. That is even more than the managers they keep for keeping their capitalist system to run. Even they provide salaries much more than them to some workers. They give much more benefits. And there are lots of other workers who are actually, they are the non-elite workers. They are the actually exploited class now. So now working class is also divided. Those workers are also workers. They are doing their work, they are producing, but they are getting much more privileges, much more salary, even sometimes much more than the value they produce. That is also happening. And the rest of the people, they are working under wage condition, right? So they are the non-elite workers, and they are expanding in all the countries, like also in US. It is not only the situation of Indian subcontinent or Africa or Latin America, it is also in the US and European nations too. It's the same situation altogether in the interglobalized capitalism.
Okay, so the next one is Alan, and then I'll have a question for you. Alan, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Basudev. Very informative presentation. I actually have a couple of questions. First of all, your description of the unrest that led to the overthrow of the government was very informative, the extent of repression that took place. And my first question is, what were the economic forces, or what were the distress that people were suffering? Or was it just, how much was it just focused on the benefit, the inheritance benefit of the students? What were some of the other things that were going on? My second question is, has to do with, I understand that there was also a problem with the US requesting access to a port on the Black Sea. And if you could address that, how that might have played into the coup that took place, overthrowing the government. So those are my two questions.
Did you mean Bay of Bengal or not Black Sea? Yeah, you're blocked. Your sound is off.
Yeah, sorry, I was thinking about the presentation, but go ahead.
Okay, so you were asking about Bay of Bengal island, or you were talking about the Black Sea thing?
Well, the first question was about the conditions that led to the uprisings that led to the overthrow of the government. How much of it was focused on the benefits problem, and how much was broader in terms of working class distress? That's my main question.
So what I was actually talking about, that there were two important features of this origin and features of this revolution that took place there. One is economic crisis. The economic crisis and maximum of that economic crisis was actually dumped from the imperialist countries, and also that by the Indian government and Indian big corporates. And it is not only the Indian big corporates and Indian states imperialist works, but also what I have explained, that the entire neoliberal crisis was being dumped in this entire Indian subcontinent. And Bangladesh is one of them, because they are the weakest link we can see. The point is, the unemployment there was very high. And in fact, the entire, if you look at the entire economy of Bangladesh, the major production of Bangladesh is only garment.
What?
All garments. Okay.
Garment.
So, yeah. So they are the second largest exporters of garments. All the neat shirt, t-shirt, what we used to purchase, those are all made in Bangladesh. Bangladesh is the second largest exporter of garments. The entire economy is based upon their garments. No other development is happening there. All the other things are almost imported. A major thing is electricity right there. Okay. So why? And also, the people there are not only economically exploited, they are now mature enough that they are actually, if you see their videos of their movements, when the ordinary working class people, the rickshaw drivers, okay, if you see the rickshaw drivers, rickshaw is a car there, they pull by their hands, the drivers pull by their hands. So these rickshaw workers, they joined first the students movement. And all of their slogans was, all the slogans were against the Hasina government and the Indian government. It is very clear to them who are the countries they are exploiting them, directly at least. And now people there on the streets, they are sloganing, they are giving slogans also against US imperialism. They are saying in their slogans that no imperialism that we can withstand here. That is also happening. And the second question was what Alan was talking about, the Saint Martin Island. Yeah, so Saint Martin Island was, yes, US has definitely, US has a plan to set an army base there, because that will be best for them. At that geopolitical position is very important for the entire Indian subcontinent, that can be controlled by that base. That is definitely their agenda. But there is a, there is a gossip also that they have already agreed to give US that Saint Martin. That has not happened. What still we got the news that has still not happened. But US is definitely trying to make a base there, and they have put an environmentalist in the advisory board. She is talking more about this Saint Martin thing, that should be isolated, that should not be allowed for civilians and all that. So that is giving us a signal that US is definitely, through her, US is trying to set a base camp there. That is true.
Okay, so I've got 3 more hands. I'll hold my question back. Luce, you're still okay, right, with the more So three more questions. First one is Lucy, second is Dave Dhanwa, third one is Judith Osterman. Lucy, please go ahead. Turn on your microphone. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Basudev, I was very impressed with your analysis. It's really good, and very happy that you gave it to us. My question is about BRICS, because I think they had a meeting sometime 2 months ago or something like that in Moscow, in Russia, and they and something that came out of that was that Russia, China, and India were had neutralized their differences or something. I'm not sure what arrangement it was, but that had historically not been such animosity between India and China, but the whole conflict with India and Bangladesh have something to do with the conflict that Russia and China have. I mean, India and China have. I'm sorry. Did it have something to do with that, or was there something else? Because I don't know very much about that area of the world. I'm sorry to say.
No, it's very important question. In fact,
Yes.
in fact, I skipped in my presentation that part because the time was short. I actually wanted to talk about that. In fact, in this situation after 2022, in fact, before 2022, in India, the Modi government, Narendra Modi government, who is actually completely pro-US government, it is completely pro-US imperialism government, and he has a very good relations with Donald Trump. Now you have again got him, so congratulations for him. You have again got him. So, and here this Modi government, they were actually playing a strict and stringent pro-US policies. But after 2022, it took a different shape. After that Russia-Ukraine war, it changed the entire geopolitics of the area below the Black Sea region. The entire geopolitics was completely different. For instance, India, after very long, took the old Nehruvian non-allied political line under Modi regime. That is a very striking thing that happened. In fact, in Nehru's time, it was told when after decolonization of India in 1947, then Jawaharlal Nehru took a path that they will go with a non-allied movement. That means they will not be in support of either US or Russia, because at that time it was two superpowers. So they will be in collaboration with both the countries. That was Nehruvian line. In fact, Indira Gandhi, the succeeding prime minister then, she also had good relations with Khrushchev as well. So that was that time. Since that time, Russia had old business relations with India. But in the Modi regime, it was completely a pro-US line. For the first time after Russia-Ukraine war, Modi government took the decisions against US government. In fact, so that was the business conflict right there. So it is very interesting situation that happened. In fact, in Russia-Ukraine war situation in UN, India abstained. They did not vote for US or European nations. They abstained. In case of Israel-Palestine war, India took stand in favor of Palestine, not in favor of Israel.
Right.
And in this time, since 2022, India and Russia did their business what I was talking about, this foreign exchange. This is the most surprising thing, that Russia exported to India in the exchange of Indian currency.
Right.
For the first time, foreign trading, India went for some foreign trading in Indian currency. Because India is a third world country. Who will take that Indian currency as their foreign reserve? But Russia took, and Russia accumulated an amount of Indian currency during this time of period. Now, so what was happening? On the other hand, China has already trying to make a good relation with the Taliban-led Afghan government.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so that is another geopolitical situation, that this below the Black Sea, what I saw in the map, below the Black Sea, the entire region was now free from, almost not free, but quasi-free from US imperialism. And in that condition, Bangladesh revolution occurred, and through CIA, US could get the power of the interim government. And after that, just after that, they pressurized Indian government, again Modi government, to go along a pro-US line again, at least to some extent. And for that, India, US, Japan, and Australia, these four countries made a collaboration that is called Quad now. Quad.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So they have collaborated, and now US will start manufacturing in India in the West Bengal. That is the Indian part adjacent to Bangladesh. That is our province actually. I stay in West Bengal, we organize in West Bengal, and now US is setting up silicon manufacturing in West Bengal. So through that silicon manufacturing, now they are trying to capture this entire Bengal region, that is the core between India and China. That is the core portion geopolitically. So they are now trying to capture this position. So now our movement is also got another important point to go against this anti-US imperialism.
Yeah.
So this is actually very important part of our discussion.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Okay, so we have two more hands raised, and there's one person from Dimash who asked a question through the text in the chat. So those will be the three last questions. So Dave, please go ahead. You're next.
Oh, thank you, Basudev, for the excellent presentation, and I really enjoyed it. I have two questions, pretty basic. One is on the imperialist stage. You said that wherever there is monopoly, that country becomes imperialist. So I'm just wondering, using that, Saudi Arabia has monopoly on oil. South Korea has a few mainly their monopolies on, and Taiwan. Russia has also on oil. So all these countries will be termed imperialist by that definition. That's one question. The other one is regarding elite workers. You said that elite workers, to me, it looks like they are not interested in the revolution anymore. That's what the implication is, that they're happy, they have been bribed by these rich corporations. So my question then comes to, what should the workers' unions do to help their workers in these countries? Shouldn't they be asking for the workers' rights, for the 8-day work day, for the health benefits, for the pensions? If you ask for them and they get them, then we will call them they have been bribed. And if the unions don't ask for them, then they're not helping the workers in any way. So this is kind of contradiction to me, So if you can explain those two things. Thank you.
these are very important questions. The first one was now all the countries, like many of the countries are now have monopolies, so are the imperialist? Yes. And in fact, that is what I was trying to say, that Lenin's time has evolved up to this situation, this time. This is 100 years evolution of imperialism also. And what now we call this, from our party, we have defined this stage as a new phase of imperialism, that is neoliberalism. That is a new phase of imperialism. And now, in fact, in all the countries, there are imperialist segments. Like imperialism has now a fractal type of structures. Like just like the branches of trees, and those branches have again semi-branches, and those semi-branches have again third layers of branches. So imperialism has now these chains of branches, right? So there are different degrees and levels of imperialism. I was trying to explain that, yes, actually United Arab, they have their monopolies of oil, and like Russia, they all are actually involved in these imperialist wars also for their monopoly. In fact, in India is a third world country. Still, it is known to be a third world country. But in India, you can see a monopoly capitalist, not one, more than one. There are a few monopoly capitalists. They are running they are not running only the entire Indian nation. They are now belonging to the top 10 capitalists of the world. And that is why India is also not Indian state, these big corporations, they are playing the same role of imperialism, but definitely there will be a difference in the degrees of imperialism. The crisis of this imperialism, and also the level of the imperialism, the degrees of the imperialism, the intensification of the imperialism, that would be different based on the entire strength of these imperialist chains, right? So there are different layers of imperialism now, but they all are imperialist nations. The point is, now it is, we should not think like previous time that some 3 or 4 or 5 countries are there which are imperialist nations. All the other nations are being exploited by them. Not only that, that is also there. First world, second world, third world, these discriminations are there. But even in the second world and third world countries, there are imperialist nations of different degrees. They are also doing the same. This imperialism is now, imperialism also have a trickle-down policy, trickle-down feature. So that is what we call a fractal structure. Just like a triangle, and inside it, there are different triangles. Okay, so largely it is a triangle, and inside them there are different sizes and amounts of triangles. So that is the present situation of imperialism. So it's a very complex situation of imperialism, and it's a complex conflicts between these imperialist nations. For instance, right now, Adani Group and US power companies, they have conflict regarding Bangladesh. But in other cases, they may have very good business relationship. And based on those monopoly conflicts, their antagonistic and non-antagonistic contradiction, the situations are evolving. And based on them, these different types of wars are happening. And we actually defined in 2016, when we formed our party, People's Brigade, we defined it, the wars at third places. Wars are now happening directly between like US and Russia, like Germany and Russia, or something like that. Wars will be carried out in third places, like in Israel-Palestine, like in Ukraine-Russia thing, like in India-Pakistan, in this different types of small countries, and in the small areas there will be wars, but those wars are actually carried out and conducted by the imperialist nations. So we call it the wars at the third places. Those who are actually waging the wars, they are not directly being involved in the wars in the most cases. They are doing this at other places and through other political forces. So that is the new trend that is happening. Actually, this is happening since 1980s, when that oil boom happened, when that Gaddafi thing started, all these things. Since then, the wars at third places was started to conduct. So this is the new situation. The war amongst the direct imperialist nations will take place just at the last moment. Before that, wars will be taken places in different small countries, like now in Syria, in like Ukraine, like in Israel, Palestine, in these countries. So one point is that. The second point is definitely it is an important part that what about the the new elite workers? So so the first point is, in every country, not only there are the elite workers, there are also the non-elite workers, and they are more in numbers. Firstly, to organize those workers, those non-elite workers, that should be the first priority of all trade unions and communist parties. First. Second part, these elite workers have only one crisis. Firstly, they are trying to get more benefits from their corporations. But that is not a revolutionary call, and they will not take any revolutionary side. They will take the opportunist positions, and they will use the non-elite workers for their movement and get their own opportunities, and then just throw out the after using these non-elite workers. That is the opportunism they actually used to do. But at one point they are in crisis when these strokes of neoliberal capitalism are happening, that I was showing, that after 8-year cycle they are exhibiting serious strokes. At that time, the first attack comes onto the elite workers, because most of the derivatives and stocks tradings, the maximum values of paid in those sections where actually these elite workers work. So the first burden of that crisis that directly come onto those sections, that means on those elite workers, so that they are just thrown out, they're sacked, they're laid off, right? So they are actually insecure about their employment. They are getting very high salary, they are getting high benefits and all that, but they are insecure. And the second point is, they have enough money to keep in banks and to invest in finance sectors. During these collapses, actually these banks get suffered. They are bailed out, this bailout situations and all those are actually suffered this elite workers. So they can be organized on the basis of these insecurity parameters of what they have gained. But they are not proletariats that they have nothing to lose. They have many things to lose. So they can be in temporary collaboration with the non-elite workers who are actually the revolutionaries. So we should be working in that direction, that the elite workers should be in our collaboration. But the leaders must be the non-elite workers. Those are the real proletariats.
Can you give examples of non-elite workers? What groups?
I'm sorry.
Can you give examples of what groups of workers you will term as elite workers?
Okay, so if I talk about suppose if I illustrate Indian condition, suppose in the software industry, the engineers, software engineers, they are the workers. They are the white. They are commonly called white collar laborers. So their salary is something like in Indian money, their salary is like monthly 2 lakhs rupees. Okay. And the average wage of the non-elite workers, who are 94% of the workers in India, their average wage is below 20,000 rupees per month. In fact, most of the cases, more than 10,000, less than 10,000 rupees. So 2 lakhs, that means 200,000 and 20,000. So that is the difference in the wages of these two classes. This is the difference. Like 200,000 rupees per month and less than 20,000 per month. In most of the cases, even less than 10,000 or 5,000 per month. So that is the difference. And this section, this lower section, is the 94%. And those are belonging to 4 to 6%. So this is the difference. So you can actually, in practice, when you are organizing, you can clearly see them around you. You can easily distinguish them, who are the elite workers, who are the non-elite workers, from the economic point of view.
Okay, so the last question, so that we can let you go to sleep, is Judith Osterman. It's all, you're already at 1:45, or no, it's past 2. I think it's actually past 2, 2:15.
Yeah.
So Judith, please go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, good. All right. So before I ask my questions, I want to make this comment. That I think it would be helpful for the people that are having difficulty with understanding imperialism. Neo-imperialism relies on the cooperation of the comprador class, the native bourgeoisie, and they're the people that are benefiting from the imperialism of the main hegemon, and it's their populations that are being exploited. So I hope that makes things clearer. All right. So So thank you very much for your presentation. I didn't really understand the economic part. I'm sorry. But anyway, I wanted to ask, when I first followed this, when it was happening, the Bangladesh situation, I thought it was a color revolution, and I didn't know that Sheikh Hassan, is that her name?
Sheikh Hasina, yeah.
Hasina, sorry. Okay, I didn't know that her measures were so draconian. But at any rate, what I'd like to know is the students, do they have a class analysis? Are they socialistically inclined? That's the one question. The second question is, you say that there's a lot of ferment in India, but what about Hindu chauvinism and nationalism? I think it's a very strong force. And also Pakistan, and they have that enmity between the two countries. And regarding Sri Lanka, they're in a very delicate situation, because undoubtedly the United States will rally all kinds of forces against them. And do you know how they are preparing for this? And the last question, you don't have to answer all of these, but you can choose. How has the membership in BRICS affected the Indian economy and the class relations? Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Actually, many important questions have come up. Thank you all for this question. But these questions are very important. In fact, in Bangladesh, the students' leaders are actually very promising, who we can see through different channels. I can distinguish a few of them. They have clear class analysis. They are going through many tactical situations. Okay, so I know means I have observed some of them. I'm not taking any name, but because that would be tactically wrong for if they could get success in their revolution. So it should not be like disrupted their tactics. But the point is, they had to fight the Indian state's operation, and for that, and they had to overthrow the Hasina government. So they took a tactics to ally with other forces who are not really not even revolutionary, not even progressive forces. For example, the Islamist forces are there. They were present in this revolution. BNP and Jamaat Islami, they were also present in this revolution, but they could not get much benefit from this revolution. So what US is trying to set out there, like to take BNP into power. In fact, that would be much better for India even to again reinstall Hasina there. Only if the students make their own party, that will be challenging. So what tactics they are now taking, that will be a question. But they have clear analysis. They have clearly, I have recently got one's statement about Indian imperialism. He clearly said that Indian elites are doing this, not the Indian people. So they have clear class analysis. They are against this Adani Group's imperialist acts. They are also using this tactics so that they, before this Hasina's resignation, just 2 or 3 days past that event, they actually said that we will go for an armed revolution if Hasina does not resign. And just after that, the situation changed. Hasina resigned. She escaped to India, and they could capture the power without any that level of bloodshed. Okay, so that is a new tactics where they are also using US imperialism. They are using the Nobel laureate's name. They are allowing them to give them some time. In fact, just after this interim government formed, what Indian government did is a nasty thing, that they opened the rivers barrages so that the entire Bangladesh was flooded. The entire Bangladesh was flooded just after the interim government formed. So that was the tactics possibly taken by law. From media, we can know that it was the tactics of law, tactics of law, that they will be this interim government led by on the streets. They are led by the students. They have no experience to how to manage these flood conditions and all those things. in that condition, they will be busy in managing the flood condition. And at that time, Awami League workers will be given support to get their power so that they can again set up for a counter revolution. Actually, Awami League got that power also. But where they failed, that through manipulating this flood situation, the student leaders got more mass accepted. So that is what happened actually in a revolution. This happens, that they are more smart than you think. So we have to observe them. They are in fact almost half my age. The leaders are almost half my age. So I am also taking lessons from them. We all should take lessons from them, the so-called Gen Z, how they are taking these tactics, how they are manipulating these international superpowers. We are all observing them. We are all taking lessons from them. They may get failed, but a failure, we cannot be scared of failures and to stay inside our rooms, rather to revolt on the streets, right? So that is the lesson from Bangladesh that we all should take. That is my opinion.
Okay, so at this point, although there are lots of comments in the chat and you could be all night answering them, we have to stop. So we'll like to have you come back actually. And the subject of imperialism is very interesting. The new imperialism, nobody has defined it like that I've heard like you have. So that would be a very interesting subject given how many changes are there. So thank you very much. It's very late for you, but this gives us a lot of food for thought.
Could we get your email address in the chat, please?
I have it, Janet.
Yeah,
I
sure.
can give it to you. I have it.
Yeah, sure.
And I can give it to you. And actually, you can put it in the chat, actually, because I can give it to Janet, but others may want it. So if you don't mind, put it in. If you don't mind giving it, so put it in the chat.
Yeah, no, not at all. No
Yeah.
problem at all.
Institute for the Critical Study of Society at the Nebel Proctor Marxist Library receives no corporate funding, nor do we have any paid staff. We rely on the support of working class folks that share our commitment to the socialist legacy of Karl Marx. We continue to need funds to meet necessary expenses. Since we can no longer pass the hat at our in-person forums, please send contributions to our treasurer, either online via PayPal or by check. The PayPal ID is ICSS Sunday, SUNDAY, at yahoo.com, and the name is Richard Fallenbaum. And checks may be made out to Richard Fallenbaum and sent to him at 1225 Nielsen Street, Berkeley, California, 94706. Fallenbaum is spelled Fallenbaum. To donate directly to the Marxist Library, send a check to the Nebel Proctor Marxist Library at 6501 Telegraph Avenue, Oakland, California, 94609, or directly or donate online at www.paypal.me/npml. For information, write to npml at marxistlibr.org, and the website is marxistlibr.org. www.ecommerce.org.